Okay, hello, welcome to this walkthrough. Today we're looking at the case from today's Road to Las Vegas, even round 7, Sunlight case by Peter Scharl. My performance was pretty shocking on this. Not quite my worst in Road to Las Vegas, but not far off. But that's meant I've had a lot to learn. So going through this since the answer file came out, I've learned a lot about where my mistakes were, and hopefully those are things I will avoid in future. Some to do with specifics to do with this case, and some just approach in general, particularly around checking the examples and checking a few. But anyway, I'm going to assume you've attempted the case or you're about to, and that's the reason you're watching this. So yeah, let's get straight into it. Or this might be a little bit more rushed than normal because I would normally take quite a few times to go through this, but because I'm traveling this weekend, I haven't got as much time as normal. I just want to get through the case and do it, and then I can leave it, put it to bed. So yes, if I have to pause a bit more regularly than normal, you'll know why, because I've got my answer file up here on my other screen, and I might have to refer to that. Anyway, enough chit chat, let's get going. So first thing I did was I created a new sheet. For now, I'm just going to rename it Forest, just so it's nice and neat and tidy. And I basically used my lambdas. So I said equals cell address, and I pointed to a 3x3. In fact, I pointed to a 5x5 array. And that gives me my references. And then what I did to make this even easier was I copied and pasted those into the same cell positions. So I could then name this 3x3 grid Forest 3. And I could name this 5x5 grid Forest 5, thinking ahead to level 7. Not that it did me much good. Okay, so let's get into the case. So level 1 was basically just taking the left of this. Now the answers, it might say some of them are wrong because of the way I've copied the answers over. I copied them over as numbers, which is my fault. So I'm just going to say if error, again, I shouldn't really have had to do this in the real case. This wouldn't have been an issue. Then I'm just going to take the left of that, but just for the purpose of neatness, that's actually what's going on. But left in the real case would have worked. Now we need to get the sum of all the numbers. So we're going to say sum regex extract from this based on any digit. We want all of them. We need to times them by 1 to turn this text and then wrap it in our sum. And I think that's all good. Put an extra bracket in there. Level 3, I actually did this in a data table first time, but it's simple enough now to be able to do inside here. So we're going to build a let. So we're going to say our split is the text split of this based on splitting by the comma. And then what we want to do is find the position of the x. So we're going to say x is the x match of s in S, and then finally we want to index into the 2 col of Forest 3 based on the position of X, which gives us in this case C2. We might see that more visually on level 4, which we're going to now. So level 4, I'm going to 2 col Forest 3. Oh, I need to actually put the formula in. That would be a good start. Sometimes I kind of think Excel should know what I'm doing. So those are the cells. I'm then going to text split B1 based on the comma. And then I'm going to work out where the sun is. So that's actually just the same formula we just did in level 3. So actually when I did this first time, it kind of, because I built level 3 as a, let's paste that as formula only. And it's just pointing to the wrong cell, so we can point it at that. And then we need to know what the arrow is, and the arrow is just given to us this time. And then I used my move on map line. I say mine, it is someone else's, and I started at this arrow. I went in this direction. I said multiple of 2 because we knew in the 3x3 map we could only ever go 2 cells. My map was Forest 3, so I could then tell me what to do if I go out of bounds. I want to say stop. And I also want to show the path, so I actually get the steps. So I then see where I'm actually going, and I'll return this to the example. 67 is probably an edge case, which we'll get to. So we have, those are our moves, but actually we start in B3 is actually our first one, so we can actually say drop of that. And I also, I need to tell it what I'm actually dropping. So I'm dropping, that's my drop. I'm dropping the first row. And for a later edge case, I think we need to take the unique, because if it's out of bounds, actually, I don't think that matters on this one, but just in case. And then what do we want to know? We want to know which ones are in the sun. So we know that these are in the sun. So we're going to X look up these cells on the cell references to the numbers, and we should get X lookup. And I'm just going to put 0 in case we get any issues. And then my heights is basically that times 1, because I think, try this, if I just sum on this, we don't get a number because it's not actually a number, it's treating it as text from the original. So if I refer to that, we get our sum. And if I point to that, we get our answer, and then we'll just quickly form our data table, and then I will clear it out afterwards because I end up with too many data tables and it slows everything down. And we see we get an edge case, so we go to 67 and we realize that actually there are no moves. It goes A3 straight out of the map. So what we can do here is just say, we'll put our if error statement here. And on the live case, this is where I started having errors. I think I got those 3 wrong in the live case, and that was the beginning of my downfall because the errors propagated into every other level afterwards, because my workings for level 5 basically start with my workings from level 4. So I'm going to copy this over to level 5. This time, what's the question? I can't remember what actually level 5 is asking for. This time we're told, we're given a direction, and we've got this whole thing of actually if the tree in front of it is taller than we don't, or is the same height, we don't see anything. So we can go to the same problem, but now we need to work out which ones to include. So do we include this? So this, I would love to have found time to find an array formula that did this, but because we always knew it was a maximum of 2, we just said, well, the first one's always going to be in the sun, so it's just equals that. This one will be the sun if this is greater than the previous, then we add it, otherwise it's a 0. And so the ones that are in the sun, we're just going to say if this is a number, then we want to return the cells, otherwise we return nothing. I'm just going to check my working. Actually, no, what I want to do here is use filter, so I'm going to say filter, and because some of these are going to be different sizes, I'm just going to make my array larger than it needs to be. Filter where that is a number. And what's going on? Filter. Okay, not sure my filter wasn't working properly there, so I'm going to try something different. So I'm going to say I'm going to filter these 3 cells where these 3 cells don't equal 0. Hopefully that will work. And so that tells me I've actually skipped a step from my original solution, so I'm not really sure how. I think I've just combined 2 of these into one step. So this is the tree that is in the sun is B2. So the ones that are not in the sun is going to be, we're going to VStack whatever is here with the original sun, because that's also not in the sun. It doesn't need to be a dynamic. And then I'm going to use my include exclude equals my include exclude lambda, where I'm going to filter this list with the items from my items, and then I'm going to exclude anything. So I basically get everything that's not in the sun. I can then look up the heights of these in my original array, return these. I should get only values, but in just in case I don't find something, I'll return a 0. And again, I think if I sum this, it's going to return 0 because these are still being treated as text. But if in here I multiply that by 1, we get our answer that we expect. And I'll just double check that is working with my data table, dt a1. That's all good. We'll empty out our data table so we're not wasting any computing power. And we'll go on to level 6 and we'll copy our workings. Again, something slightly different. This is what happens when you rush, but never mind. So let's see what's going on here. So straight away, my split is pointing at the wrong cell because I actually added a couple of extra rows in to deal with the arrows. And now we're dealing with 2 arrows. So we're going to regex extract on this. We want any wildcard. We want both of them. And on this first one, the sun is again pointing at the wrong input, and then our arrow originally pointing there is now going to point here. We're going to have to do everything here twice, so let us copy. Let me just think about how much I need to copy for the second bit. So I think I basically need to copy everything from here, and we'll just paste this down here so it's nice and out of the way. So our arrow here is going to be this second arrow. Some of these are going to need to point at different things. So this needs to point at the sun. That's fine. This needs to point at these ranges here. So I need to, and I might lock those because I think on the next level I will have to copy this all again. So that might make it less likely I make a mistake. And then my no sun, I need to H stack as well as those lists. I also need to H stack this list, and that gives me everything I'm excluding. This is actually already pointing to the right cell, so I should just be able to data table that on cell A1, column on A1, And yep, we're all good. Okay, so that's good. So we will clear that out so we're not wasting any computing power again. And then we're going to go into level 7, which again is going to copy lots of the workings over. So let's start with that. And now we've got to expand our ranges. So we're now talking about forest 5. Our sun is now looking at forest 5. And we've also got to look for S1. And that's going to cause an issue later when we've got some extraction of funds. Oh, I need to copy my level 6 working for the arrows. So someone is pointing at that, and let's copy that down here. And that's pointing at D1. Let me see whether this is now working. So that's pointing, needs to look at forest 5. This looks good, I think. So B1 is in row 1, so yep, so that's fine. This, okay, this is where the heights is going to be very, very different. So let's shrink that and make some space. So let's find an example where we've got more than one height. Okay, ideally we want one where we've got, oh, because am I going far enough? No, my move on map, I now need to go 4 steps. Brilliant. Okay, so this is a good example. So we need to work out whether to include the height or not. So we said before, the first one will always be included. The second one we're saying, well, if it's more than what went before, that's fine. Now we need to say if this is greater than the max of these two, then we include it. Otherwise, it's a 0. And then that same formula is going to apply down here, except we need to include that because basically it only gets shined upon if it is bigger than everything that's come before. If it's not bigger, then it doesn't get shined upon. So then this needs to expand. And again, I will make it slightly bigger. So if I'm not, because if I do one of these, it will give it an array formula and then it will change the array formula. I could actually what I could do is just hard code this as not I6, but I6 to I9, so we'll always do that. Okay, I'm just going to double check my working. Okay, actually something you can see something's not working properly because 2 shouldn't be appearing, but that's because this has not been converted to numbers. So now we just get D3 and C3. So I think that is fine working for everything here. So let me now just, I actually need to have 2 of these. So I'm going to put this here. And so the arrow for the second lot is this second arrow. Everything else here we can copy, but that needs to point at, this is our arrow, and that's all good. This needs to point at, this is where I should have locked these the first time. So that's actually E6 hash and F6 hash, and let's lock them now. Not that it's going to make much difference. So on that second one we get E4, and then let's copy all of this into Sun2, where this is going to point at that. This is looking for Sun2. This is pointing at the wrong arrow, should be pointing at that. This needs to point at, I thought I'd sorted out this reference. This is E6. I'm just going to end up doing this on all of them, aren't I? That looks good to me. And so this arrow needs to be pointing to that. And this should, yep, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. Okay, this looks good. So the last thing is what doesn't get sun is basically all of these ranges, but I need to hash them in case they are spill array, even though they're not on this particular example. And we get an error because it's looking up, yes, we also need to exclude. It's looking up B4, which returns S1, and something has gone wrong. So let me check what I've got wrong. Actually, I don't think anything's wrong. I'm just not on the examples. That's why I was expecting 76. Oh, but I'm getting 86 when we can see an error here. So let's see what's going wrong with this. Just give me a second. Yeah, so the issue here is we're now looking at C3, which is actually the other sun, so it doesn't know what the height is because I try and make it number. So what I'm going to do is, I think if I just put if error, give me a 0, that should solve it, and I need to copy that to all of the others just in case that issue appears elsewhere, but it's, I don't like that. Oh, because the reference is the same. So let's just, okay, let's just quickly type the same if error handling each of these. Again, these were the edge cases that absolutely, well, I say on this one, I had edge cases in level 4 that I didn't deal with properly, and that just meant all my later working. So I did get through all the 7 levels, and it was the first time I was like, oh my gosh, I think I might be about to, solve the whole thing. And then my scores in each level, just when I saw the final scores, just got worse and worse. Okay, there we go. How are we doing for time? 15 minutes and we've done level 7. So let's go on to the bonuses. So that's shown wrong because I cleared out my data tables just as we've gone, but you have seen as we've gone, we have got those all correct. So bonus 1, what is the sum of all the tree heights in levels 1 to 5? So this is, I need to get better at doing this. So I've got case questions, lambda, so 1 to 5, and we just want the first column of that. So that's the first column. And then I should just be able to concatenate that into one long string, and then we want to sum the regex extract on that based on extracting every digit and times it by 1 and then summing that up, and we get 3973. Then which cell was the most popular location for the suns across levels 1 to 5? So actually if I go back to my bonus, let's go back to case questions 1 to actually the take we'll need as well because we just want the columns. I think I can get rid of all of that. And we want to know what position the sun is in. So if I go to my level 3 work, so level 3 basically does that. So if I go to sheet 15, paste that in there, it's not going to like it because it's pointing at something that's not a cell. If we then fill that down and it's taken the formatting with it, and then I'm going to use most least on this range. And the top answer is C2. So we'll go to the top and we'll get C2. Place that in. Which cell across all games in level 5 never receives any sunlight? So the way I did this, actually I've already cleared this out, that's fine. So doesn't receive any sunlight is these cells here. So what I'm going to do is array to text those cells, make that my answer. So that's definitely the one that doesn't receive any sunlight. I think that's correct. Then data table this based on A1. And then I'm going to use my deduplicate list on this. And it does, I need to put in my separator, which in this case will be a comma space because I've used array to text. And if I I can see there's, actually there are 9 in there, so I've done something wrong. So let me check my work. Yes, I'm doing this the wrong way around. These are, we want to see which ones did actually get sunlight, and then that will tell us which ones never appear in this list. If I change that, that list gets slightly shorter. We've got 3 A's, we've got 3 C's, but only 2 B's. We have B1 and B3, so we don't have B2. So that's our answer there. In level 6, how many times did a tree of height 7 receive sunlight? How many times did a tree of height 7 receive sunlight? So go to level 6. These are the trees that got sunlight, is these ones. So let's V-stack this and this, and let's make sure that is a hash in case that is more than 1. And then we want to say, does this, oh no, we want to X look up these in our range and return our heights. And then we want to say sum where minus those equals 7. And in this case, we get none, but let's see if we can find one there. That's not the case, just to check this is picking up properly. So that isn't picking up, so we need to say if it's not found times 1, but that's going to produce an error because of the sun. So we'll say if error, we'll say 0. So now we get 1. And I think if I point that as my answer, and then data table this on A1, and then I think it's the sum of this, which is sum of 5, which looks correct. Okay, and then level 7, if the sunlight was always shining in one single direction for both suns across all games in level 7, which is the smallest sum of tree heights which would not get sun across all games. Let's go to level 7. So what we need to do is we're basically going to be changing each of these and working out the sum. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say unique. Let's go arrows. We just want those top 4. So actually, I've got an easy way of doing this. Let's just give a letter, and let's go arrow from text So start with that. And then I've got a array repeater lambda. So I want to repeat that twice and twice. We get a 4x4 array. I'm going to delete that, point that to here. And then I'm going to run my data table based on, we're still going through all the actual game questions. So A1 is still our most. And then what we'll do is we'll grab this, paste it over here, and we'll call that up. And then we'll change this to down. And we get these values. So that's down. Then we'll change it to left. And we get these values. And then we'll change it to right. And we get these values. I could have probably done a two-dimensional data table. So that last one was right. And this was left. And if we then just say by col this and sum, we get this, and our minimum is 2081. And that is correct. And we're 21 minutes on time. And on level 7, there was some discussion about whether this was by question or by all of them together. So the actual minimum was 65, and I think they were going to accept 65 if you misinterpreted it, or not misinterpret, if you interpreted it to mean what is the smallest sum of tree heights, because the sum could be applying to the tree heights within the game or across all the games. So I can understand why you could get that both ways. So 21 minutes for a walkthrough with a minute at the beginning for chat was pretty good for me. So actually shows how badly I misunderstood this. It wasn't a difficult case in that sense. There were people, as you saw on the live stream, who got all the marks in 25 minutes. So yeah, disappointed with myself. Like I said, I think I messed up on level 4 where there was one of the edge cases. I can't remember what it was. Well, in this case where there was no arrow, it's basically we didn't get out of the map because we start on A3, and A3, if we look at our map, A3 is the bottom of that. So we're just going out of the map. I didn't account for that, so I didn't do this if error at this point in my solution. So I had plenty of errors here. And that's some, like I said, because I then copied my model into level 5 and into level 6. And I think that single mistake certainly propagated. Whether I think I introduced other mistakes on other edge cases or not, I don't know. I would be interested to know if I've got time. Yeah, you're still hanging around. Great. This bit here where I had to kind of manually do this max, I think there is an alternative. I'm going to clear out the data table where we actually just say something like we scan through that. So if we scan starting at 0, going through this array, and say max. Let's find a better example where we have kind of multiples on that first one. 23. Here we go. And then what I think we would say is we would say if this equals the max, it's the tallest one so far, then we return that. We return J6 hash, otherwise we have a 0. I think that would have also solved the problem. That does look like it's working there. So yeah, but anyway, that is a fun case. Like I said, I disappointed myself, or not disappointed myself is a bit harsh, because what was annoying is I thought I'd done well because I got through level 7 just in time before the end. And I was thinking, great, that's the first time I've managed to do that. But like I said, a simple mistake on level 4 certainly propagated, and my scores going through each subsequent level just got less and less, which is where the individual feedback, or not the individual, the kind of answer feedback on in-person cases is different, because I would have seen I'd got something wrong on level 4, and although it would have slowed me down, I probably would have done better overall, knowing I had to fix some edge cases. But there you go. Anyway, hope you found that helpful. Glad to get this out of the way, because it means I can travel the weekend without thinking I've still got to do this, and it's still bugging me in my head. But if you've got any thoughts or any suggestions or ways I could improve, or things where you're thinking you've done that really slowly and there's a way more efficient solution, then certainly let me know. Right, see you next time.